music would just make you want to like think that we're having sex or something like that.
It was groovy.
Well, let me say hello to some folks there. Hi, Toodly Pip, Sandra, good to see you. Myra and Eris, wonderful Eris, and all of those new folks that are coming in and joining in. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, and the link up there is to free Zachariah Anderson's .org is up there in the top. So make sure that you go check that out. Hey, Crime Spies, good to see you. And it's me, Josie. Good to see you, Josie. Murph's Turf, good to see you. And Jen, wow, everybody's just wanting to come and say hello and show their support. That's a beautiful thing. So, Solomon, we know what you've been up to. Somewhat. I mean, you've been trying to get your brother released from being falsely accused of a crime that they have no body, no nothing for. And so how is this all affecting you and your family in the worst, in the simplest way?
I mean, very simply, it's consuming. Jen's in the chat. It's a lot of time, for us, every time I even do a live stream, it's time away from the family, right? So think about all the hours that I've spent, streaming with all the other folks on the internet, with Nick and Dave and Legal Vices and all of LawTube. So, every single one of those is like time to step away, less time, with Jen and our tiny baby. So it's a burden, on top of that, going through legal documentation, look at everything. Jen is really, really, really dug in to the discovery, the information, the website design, updating the the journals, doing all that stuff. So it's not just unilateral. It really has taken like our free time and kind of turned it into this, this it's really like a passion project, right? It's there's no other way to describe it. And I can say that there's, I wouldn't be here without her, with how much time and effort that she puts in. Even some of the legal documentation that she goes through, she'll call me over and bring my attention to some stuff, because, like I'm in school as well and working at a hospital here in Madison. So that all really is a heavy burden on all of us. So it's like, imagine having an extra full-time plus job to worry about, with doing this on top of the rest of your life, obligations. And I couldn't do it without her. So I can't really give her enough credit.
So are you studying to become a doctor? Is that what your studies is for, or?
No, I'm going to nursing school. So Jen and I met. Actually, it's about our anniversary, so about 4 years ago.
Congrats.
And so about 4 years ago, and I mean, it was like instant. Like as soon as we had our first conversation, like it was
clicked.
Like, yeah, absolutely. Like our humor just fell right in step. Like she's hilarious, and she doesn't take me too seriously. Even when I go on soapboxy rants, she keeps me in check with reality and makes me laugh at awkward moments. She really is the one that wears the cape in our family. So, some other people have like made comments that, like fighting for Zach is like, it's something that it's such an oddly selfless thing, and most people don't have family members that do that. But I mean, I literally can't give her enough credit. And lo and behold, 4 years later, this is where we're at. But we fell in love over board games. Like Like
So what was the board game that you were playing that was so
we have all
interesting?
kinds, honestly. We started playing Gloomhaven together, and that really got us like to the table and playing that. And it was Gloomhaven. If you're not familiar, is
Mm,
it's like a legacy game. So you unlock things as you move through the game, and you
okay.
unfold your own custom story as you move through the world in this board game. And you put stickers on a map for things that you've explored, and you unlock different dungeons and stuff like that. You grow characters and develop them, unlock different things like new characters and stuff in the game. And it's a blast. It takes quite a bit of time to play a scenario. It's about 4 hours, 3.5 hours to crack. So you
Nice.
set up and you dedicate that time to one another. And so we played that. We played games like Scythe with some of my friends, and just I already had a pretty substantial board game collection when we started dating. So I had games like Tales of the Arabian Nights and King of Tokyo and all kinds of games. We've increased our collection since, but like we would go through and we'd like pick out games that were like on Board Game Geek's top 100 and do some research on them, see if we'd like them, and take recommendations from friends and playing board games with other friends and figuring out what we did and didn't like. Um, so we've we're super nerdy. As it turns out, I played Dungeons and Dragons with a group of friends for many years before she and I started dating, and turns out that she was also a D&D nerd from her childhood, and her brother like ran a table for most of his life and all kinds of stuff. And so we just had so much in common, so much interest, and so we'd brainstorm characters and talk about stuff. And she eventually joined the campaign that I was running and played at the table. And of course, the rest of the players accused me of giving her favoritism instantly. But I tried to play a fair game.
So you got hooked up, and board games was one of the things that you sort of just like this passion between both of you. Because I mean, my wife and I just happened to be working next door, in a shop, in a wood shop. So are you originally from Wisconsin? And
Yeah.
is she also originally from Wisconsin?
No, she's a transplant. So I grew up north of Milwaukee. She was like born in Jersey, grew up in Florida and in Illinois, and then transplanted up here from the Great Flat Wonder right below us. We call people from Illinois fibs for a reason. In Wisconsin, we have a friendly rivalry with Bears fans. Uh, so she transplanted up and had put down roots in Madison. And so when we met, it was a discussion about if we would move together, how that would look. Long distance dating wasn't really a thing that we wanted, so I ended up walking away from pretty much everything and moving to Madison, and here we are, happily ever after.
Yeah, I mean it like, so I was born in Illinois, and I
I'm
lived in
sorry for your
Illinois.
loss.
Yeah, it wasn't a loss whenever my mother moved us all the way across the country to New Mexico, and
Sure.
what a weird place to end up. Hooked up with a band, went on tour, ended up here in Georgia, and I would ping pong between here in Georgia and picking up jobs, going working on ships and things, and ended up staying here eventually. And so I've been here for what, 20 plus years now, and you
Wow.
know, oh yeah, I think I'm going on 30. Let's see, 91. Yeah, 91 was the year that I moved here to Georgia. So
Yeah, 33 years.
yeah, yeah. So my wife, short, I mean, like 15 years ago, 60, 20, shit, time flies. 20 years ago. Yeah, we've been married for what, 15 years, but I met her about 20 years ago. So
Sure.
yeah,
Sure.
and so I understand how that dynamic is like. You're and she's originally from South Carolina, so neither of us are originally from Georgia. I mean, she was born in Columbia. So with that kind of, you know, thing, is that your intention in staying in Wisconsin the whole time, or you looking for, you know, like whenever all of this stuff is behind you, just be like, you know, I'm ready to be like in a warmer climate.
So, I mean, honestly, one of the reasons why I'm in school right now, I'm in school for nursing, was I changed careers. I was a general contractor for like 10 years, and I had my own business for about 4. Um, so I moved out here and I shut down the business, and decided that I was going to go to school for nursing, so she and I could do travel nursing together. The whole goal was that we were going to travel around, and do it as a duo. And it has evolved. The conversation has evolved. So when she was small, her dad had a sailboat, and she loved sailing. And we were talking about it because she just loves being out on the water. She loves sailing. She loves, just the feel of a ship, being out, being lulled to sleep by the sound of waves, and being near the water is something that really grounds her. And and
No
so
pun intended.
so right, yeah. And so we were talking about, whether or not we would like go sailing together, learn to sail together, because I don't know how to sail, and her dad knew how to sail so many years ago and could, give us tips and lessons and stuff, but like to really figure it out. And then we were it occurred to one of us, I don't remember which one, that we could travel nurse from a boat, and we could just do that. We could just travel. And we both have a mad case of wanderlust. We like to go exploring, and like drop us in a country. There's like two types of vacationers, right? There are people that go on vacation to be in an all inclusive resort, to have the time to just like get hammered and fall asleep on the beach, right? And then there's people that are like, no, I want to go eat the food from the stand in the poor neighborhood where it's the most authentic, and then
Yes.
just have a wild adventure with that. Because it
Yes.
turns out, like, you don't know if you're really meant to be with someone until you've traveled with them. And she and I have traveled enough. We're both the latter, right? We're both like, let's go have an adventure. Let's go do something, like figure something out, and go experience some culture. And we both love history, like, so we were in Europe,
Nice.
like, I guess it was about a year and a half ago now. And, we like saw the city of Ephesus in Turkey, and like Rome was incredible. We loved it. And it was just like finding the old world stuff, like going and seeing, like the ancient world, and really like soaking it in, like that was all dynamite for both of us. So, it's just like when I'm telling you, like, it was like we clicked instantly. Like, it was
Like
like
everything clicked.
everything just step after step, we were just on the same page. And you know I was calling her my wife a long time ago, and she, like, for simplicity's sake, I guess, would call me, her husband, to make it simple, like, while
Oh,
travel nursing, and
I understand.
uh, even without doing the time, as she likes to say, I gotta put the ring on. You know, you can't use the title if you don't do the time. Uh, so she likes to rib me about it, but the truth is that, like, we're already there. Like, there's no question. The legal documentation, the vow to God, or however you want to slice it. Like, it's like there's something about, like, knowing deep in your soul that this is the person that you're just with, and that's where we're at.
So what is the plan? Is there a plan to actually get married, or is that just like
Yeah, it'll
we're
happen.
just we're just happy where we're at
As it
kind of thing?
turns out, all of my financial resources have been tied to changing
Right.
my career, and then also trying to get my brother out of prison, and that puts me, behind the eight
Mhm.
ball on, spending tens of thousands of dollars on a ring or whatever. So I, with all of that, um, we may end up getting married without the ring at some point, and then just make the ring official afterwards. We'll see. But we want to make sure that that I told her that I wanted to get her the ring that she deserves, and some people are like, "How? What does it matter? It's just a ring." But
It does.
it does matter to
Trust me.
me. So, and I think that it does and it doesn't matter. Does that make sense? Like
Yes. I
what
mean,
matters is that we have each other. The ring is
exactly.
replaceable, but the ring is also symbolic as an expression of how much she matters to me and my dedication to her.
Right.
So that's all it like. It's an important symbol, if that makes
Right.
sense.
It's much more enjoyable than a cheeseburger. Let's put it that
Right.
way. I can buy her a cheeseburger anytime, but there's only going to be one time that I'm going to buy her this ring, and I'm going to go all out on it.
Yeah.
That's that's how I was too. I mean, so I understand. I mean, my wife and I, we were doing pretty much the up to that point. It was like, you know what, I just need to go ahead and do it. Pop the question. I didn't have same issues that you're having currently with
Yeah.
finances, but it was still, it was one of those where I completely agree with you, is doing that. Yeah, get her a cheeseburger too.
And a
She's
burrito. Yeah.
and a
She
burrito.
does love a breakfast burrito. That's that is true. And she's Irish descent, so anytime I
Oh,
can supply potatoes, she's very happy.
oh
Uh,
yeah. So hopefully the red potatoes. My wife's family were potato farmers. It was like nothing but red potatoes. My wife
a
was like, "Wow,
gold,
don't you?"
red, she almost any variety of potato is a win for her. So she is a lover of all potatoes.
A woman of my own heart. It's awesome. So what are you doing to sort of unwind from all of the craziness going on? Because I mean, I know that there's big lulls in your time. You're not sitting there 100 times a day. There's only so much you can do with what's going on, because you have these big lulls. I mean, how are you filling up that time with just spending time with family?
You'd be surprised how much actually still goes on. Um, I mean, consider that this is also like a social media campaign. So
Yes.
there's there's constant, demand for interaction. We try to not to leave the community high and dry, too long. Like there are days where one of us will disconnect, or both of us will, where we can go and unwind. We'll watch a movie or spend time. But I mean, the issue that we have is that we're both also like mentally and emotionally tapped. So even like checking in to playing a board game where you have to have high levels of focus to play and really get into it, it's a bigger ask than it used to be, because we have this other weight on our shoulders. So a lot of times it's like, how can we just disconnect for a little bit? So we'll play a video game together, or we'll watch TV or watch a movie, or doom scroll. Like, not that I recommend doom scrolling, but
No.
we get sucked into the social media, you know downward spiral, the typhoon of it, um and that's taxing. It can be really taxing. So reading books, we've also, you know Jen's pulled some library books actually just recently about wrongful convictions, an audiobook about, that we were both listening to together, about the guy that started the California Innocence Project. Like learning and educating herself on the legal system, different aspects of the law, also trying to figure out what aspects of the law were violated in both investigating Zach and in prosecuting him. So like it's another job on top of it. It really is. So
Mm.
like, and I'm in nursing school, which is
Yeah.
not easy, by the way.
No,
It's
no.
it is it's a task. Um, so really, it's like a constant itch to try and pursue, because as we've gotten deeper into this, as we've learned more, um, some of the supporters have actually said even that in watching Zach's case and understanding the kind of crap that the district attorney and the judge pulled, and the type of information that they suppressed, and the type of dirty cops that they had on the investigation, or the inept cops, both,
Yes.
just their their inability to execute their job well, the mistakes that they made, the blundering buffoons that they had leading the investigation. Like this whole situation was such a rude awakening for so many people, that then more and more people have started to look at other trials and other aspects of the criminal justice system with a critical eye. And a lot of the ladies in chat, have told us straight up that when they try to watch other trials, it's with such heavy skepticism on not just the case itself, not just the case in chief, but in the veracity of the evidence, in the reliability of the evidence being provided, because so many of these people are playing dirty in these positions of power, that we've all sort of had this like foundational shaking,
Yes.
that now when we look at the criminal justice system, we don't trust it at all, like at all. and
That's
and that's scary, because we're supposed to have some level of faith in the people that are pursuing justice on our behalf.
yeah. That is one of the. I mean, I work for an attorney. I do paralegal work. I was a mechanic up until 2020. March, what was it? March 1st of 2020, I became basically her paralegal. She's hired someone else to do paralegal work, and I handle a lot of the back office and crap like that. But I read filings and pleadings all day long, where it's just pretty much rinse and repeat. I mean, some of them are so much form. That's what started getting me interested in watching different trials. Was being at home. Rittenhouse came popping up. I was like, "What's this Rittenhouse thing?" And then it was, you'd see the Johnny Depp stuff come up, and whenever I first saw Zach's case come up, I was just like, "Oh, great!" Some stalker guy. Like, I didn't know any of the details. I didn't see any of the stuff coming into it. And almost off the bat, I was like, "Oh Jesus, this guy looks like my little brother." I was like, having to look twice at the screen, because I mean, the facial features, everything. I was like, "Is that my little brother?" And it was like, "No, this can't be my little brother." And after I started watching, I was like, "No, it's not. It's they just have a lot of the same facial features."
Sure.
And I'm sitting there going, watching this trial and seeing the shenanigans and the bullshittery. And I'm just sitting there going, what is going on with this? There's more to this. You got dead emotions, and I mean, stuff that I've never even heard of before that's coming up, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm just like, why are they so hard on for this guy? And then I come back, and I've been watching Sadie's interview. I'm sure
Yeah.
I've been watching that. I'm going, they based their entire case on him after this one interview. This is all that it took.
Yep.
I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. There's no way that they did.
Right, and even in that interview, you have Lauren Anschutz, who says straight up that, well, we've got to follow the lead that we have presented to us. It's like, it's not even,
Really?
yeah, it like the blinders were on. Well, like at the crime scene when she's telling him, like, I think I know who did this, right? And I'm paraphrasing. I don't know exactly what she said,
Yeah.
but like they let her leave without searching her vehicle even.
Oh my God.
They let her leave to
Yeah.
drive, to pick up one of her three children, to drive back, to then have time to then plant ideas in her daughter's head in transit, to then get to the police station, and then to have these interviews. And that's like, that is unconscionable. The
Right.
absolute neglect and incompetence of that police force is like, it's suffocatingly mind-boggling, right?
Yeah, because I
When
mean,
you're really wrapping your head around it.
it's almost like they didn't even look at her as a suspect, which
Not at
was
all.
so odd to me because
Mm-mm.
here you have this person that shows up and finds a body. I mean, if I
Not a body,
showed up,
found blood in an apartment.
found blood in an apartment, and how much blood? Well, I'm thinking this thing is like you've got blood splatter all over the place. It looks like Charlie Manson was in this place, and the amount of blood is like, really, this is, and it started asking some questions to myself, and I'm not a police, I'm not an investigator, but I would have been asking some questions of how do you know so much about what everything is supposed to look like unless you're aware of what was missing. I mean, I
Right.
would have had some serious questions for her, that would have precluded her even leaving that, walking away from this, because it's just like, what are you doing here? What's your relationship to this person? How long have you been with them? How involved are you? Because I mean, how do I know that you're just not some jealous woman that showed up and did something horrible, and then you know, we don't know how long this has been going on. It could have been a Friday before then. You could have been sitting there texting back and forth with him on his phone and then tossing it into the freezer. We don't know any of this stuff, and it leaves a lot of questions. And you come up with all these conspiracy theories of what actually happened, because we don't know, because the police didn't do their job,
Right.
and those questions could have been answered.
Which, I mean, personally, I believe in more training for police, right? Like,
Yes,
the solution isn't to like gut police forces, right? That's not the solution. What we need is higher accountability for police and better training so they're better at their jobs. And higher accountability for police that are willing to bend or break the rules. And what does that look like? Do they
right.
take hits on their pension? Like, you hit them in the pocketbook? Do you suspend them and hit their pocketbook? What does it look like when a police officer breaks the law? And that is an important conversation, because in the United States, for all of you out there that are unaware, the police have expanded rights, right? So they have more rights to execute the law and uphold the law than the common citizen. And if they are granted that privilege by the people, then the consequence to undermining the integrity of their position and privilege should be dire. And that is just the reality. That is truth. We are giving them, we the people grant them the right to do this, and that is important for us to recognize. And what does that look like for us, when the police themselves are not able to execute their job? Like, think about it. Like in a meritocracy, which is arguably what I would support, is the best man for the job needs to have the job, and the best candidate needs to be trained to do the job to the best of their ability with the best and most current knowledge. And it's clear that the detectives, that are investigating Zach's case, Anschutz and Correa, uh, don't they don't get it. They don't understand what it's like to have that confirmation bias, and what that means for their investigation, and why that would lead them astray. They don't care either. They're not approaching the evidence from a neutral point of view, and they're not approaching even the witness that they met at the crime scene from a neutral point of view. They clearly approached her as a victim as opposed to a potential suspect, which is against police training, which
Right.
blows my mind. It's against standard police practice training. The person at the crime scene, always a suspect, right? The lover of the person, always a suspect. Why wasn't she one of the number one people to investigate? And when they found inconsistencies with her statement and suspicious text messages, why then didn't they treat her like a suspect afterwards? Regardless of the stalking charge, they should have done it like that.
Well, and I had some questions on some of that, you know, reviewing that tape with Mo. I'm going, okay, she's saying she's sitting in a police station, she's texting, but she keeps saying that she doesn't have good cell service. I'm like, well, then how is she getting in and out text? Is she using some sort of Facebook Messenger? What? And who is she messaging? Who is she communicating with? Are they involved in this?
I'm not
Because
sure if
that's
she
not going to
was
show up.
able to like, because you could try and send the text. We have no idea if it went
Yeah,
through.
don't know.
If a lot of it looked like she was scrolling messages from the past and looking at what she had received on her phone from what I
Yeah,
was watching in her behavior. That doesn't mean that she didn't try and text. And I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the phone, excuse me, the phone record to see whom she was messaging
right,
during that time. But there's like there are messages that were odd considering her what was presented as her mental state when the police
right.
respond to the crime scene, that are out of place, that are
Yes,
concerning, because it doesn't line up exactly with what the police presented as her emotional state at the crime scene for why they thought she was so sincere. That was an excuse, but in the meantime she's like texting other people, she's texting Zach, like it doesn't even, the behavior doesn't match what was testified to, and those are some of the big red flags that we have as we look at it. We're wondering what exactly was going on, why all of these missteps were taken by police. And I mean, regardless, I'll go right back to more training, more accountability.
yes,
Because when you do spend the money to train people to do it the right way, you have a higher level of accountability because they don't have an excuse to claim ignorance. You've been trained to do this the right way, and when you're doing it the wrong way, then you get demoted. You're no longer a detective because you shit the bed. I'm sorry, I'm swearing. It's
no,
only
no,
30
that's
minutes in,
fine.
but if you screw up that badly, you
Don't
shouldn't
don't
continue to have
don't
your position.
you don't have to worry on here whether you swear or not. Outside of you feeling a certain way about it, you're more than welcome to say whatever you want to. I'm not going to tell you not to cuss because I understand the emotional charged, and I'm not worried about if my channel gets demonetized or crap like that. I'm not that big. I'm not that big of a guy. Yeah, well, I mean, muscle boys, I might
Yeah,
be a
yeah.
little my gut, but I'm not worried about it. If you're emotionally charged, then feel free to say what you want to say. It's not going to bother me. And if chat gets upset about it, I think that they can understand the situation here. Um, and so in all of this, you've retained someone that's going to be doing your appeal, and that's Natalie Lesko. Is that right?
Wisco, Natalie Wisco,
Natalie
like
Lesko.
Wisconsin, Wisco.
Yes.
So that's,
Yeah, she was on Rittenhouse. She worked on
she was.
Rittenhouse's case. And so you've retained her to handle the appeal. Does she have a whole team, or is it just her?
There is a small team working with her, helping her organize information and take care of things. But she is the front man. She's the one, um, you know, running the show, writing what she needs for court motions and doing all the work. She gets to run what she writes past Mark. Because she works with Mark Richards, but
That's
um,
nice.
regardless, they're clearly talented lawyers, both of them very talented lawyers, and again, I believe in merit, and I believe that she has a good reason to have my faith. So yeah, Natalie Wisco is our appellate counsel. We do have a few other people that have volunteered their time to help. Jen just pointed out Linda McGuire, who was a judicial assistant that's helping Natalie organize information and do line summaries and all kinds of stuff. She's phenomenal. Her work has helped quite a bit, and
So
and so
so how many appeals has Natalie handled?
she's handled. I don't know the exact number. She's
But
done a
quite a
number of
few.
them. Yeah. So this
Okay,
is
so
not her
she's
first
so
appeal.
she's used to the appeal courts. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just curious if maybe someone on her team was handling the appeals, but it seems like if she's done them, the only reason I asked that is because my wife, like, she's probably handled like 2 or 3 appeals. Generally, she doesn't have to deal with that kind of stuff. And I know that she had an appeal that she had to handle in South Carolina. She's like, I don't know South Carolina's procedures, so I'm getting somebody else in on this, and I'll basically be the one signing off on it. But they know the appeal stuff, so
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
Natalie
always
does,
curious.
several appeals a year. So
Nice.
she works with both criminal defense and appellate law. And like everybody has a specialty. Like your wife has a special. Oh, your wife has a specialty. But um, Natalie, this is something that she's very familiar with. So going through a lot of it is really good, very helpful to have her, because we're you know when Jen and I are going through the discovery, when we're covering this information, when we're going through and putting a critical eye on what was said, what was exchanged, what was really like on paper, what doesn't make sense, we're able to bring it to her and say, these are pieces of information. This is something that we believe is suspicious, or this is a potential suspicious actor. So we're able to like bring these issues to her, and then at least give her information for potentially looking into people, or looking into situations, or to cite other violations of law that officials have committed, in Kenosha. As it turns out, Kenosha officials are dirty, and
Go figure.
and this is like in like in a very uncomfortable way, and it actually has, I think, broader implications than Kenosha,
Yes.
because I believe that it's not unique to Kenosha,
No.
and this is where you start to feel oily when you're starting to look at exactly what people are doing, where, because they always say follow the money, right? If you're following money, where is it coming from? Who is processing money? And how is that affecting the local community? And then this is just Kenosha, but this is how it works everywhere, where there's
Right.
like everybody is covering for each other. They've got old boys clubs, in the whole legal system, where
Yes.
now you have prosecutors covering for each other in neighboring districts. You have judges on multiple levels covering for each other. You have you actually have the
Attorneys.
attorney general,
Yes.
burying cases for prosecutors. And this is all happening. They're all doing it, colluding together to do it. And so when you're starting to look at the actions that all these individuals are taking, from the local prosecutor to the Supreme Court of your state, actions that individuals have taken, you start to be a little overwhelmed with how much the deck is stacked against the citizen.
Yes. And wonder what you can do to alleviate it. And it becomes overwhelming. That's I think that's one of my concerns is getting so overwhelmed with the amount of information you're getting. And are you able to tone it back and go, I know beyond this is it's really really dirty, and I've got all kinds of questions on this, but is there where you're seeing all of it, are you able to rein that back and be more focused on, listen, I'm not me going after the attorney general, or some guy in another county, that's not going to move along my brother's case. You're able to sort of dial that back and like focus on just your brother.
Yeah, I mean, as much as getting Zach out is the priority, like it's the highest priority. But I think that, did you see the commentary from Andrew Branca? Uh,
Yes.
Branca had made a statement, like effectively, like these are people that are elected and placed into office. So in a way, we're also running a political campaign, which is not something that I ever wanted or aspired to do in my life. Um, I always felt like politicians are gross, too oily. I don't want anything to do with it. But the reality is that that's kind of what we have to push for is the awareness campaign, to put pressure on these individuals that are elected.
Okay.
And that is in itself a whole different bag of beans, and not one that we're doing this, like these conversations to raise awareness about it.
Right.
But the reality is, the whole system is so stacked that it's clear that we're the only ones that are losing, because both parties are working the angle the same way.
Right.
They both have their fingers in the cookie jar, and it's not in our favor. They're covering for each other as well as for their party members. I personally reached out to the Republican Party of Wisconsin, both the main office here in Madison and the Kenosha office, about individuals that are registered Democrats in Kenosha that were saying things, releasing things, and responses that we got from them that were undemocratic, that were not even constitutional, like not even respecting constitutional rights, that were completely ignored and never even got a response. Nothing from the Republican Party. Nobody, not a single person, which is kind of crazy, because you have a story from someone opposing in public office in a place where they're going to want votes. They don't care. Doesn't matter.
I want to give a quick shout out to all the 5 people. Half Irish. It's me, Josie, Ashley E, Myra, and Nisha. Thank you very much, Wolfram, for donating those memberships to those fine folks. And I'm sure they'll appreciate it also, even more so. No, there's that, and my wife, as lovely as she is, she's like, I hate that you get involved in politics and you talk politics. I was like, if I don't, who else is? And what the bad part about all of that is it doesn't, your voice, it does feel like you're not being heard by the people that it matters to. And in your case, you're trying to get somebody in one of these positions of power just to take a look at it. And from what somebody was telling me, that like the Innocence Project doesn't come in until after you've even lost appeal. They won't even come in to help.
Yeah, you have to lose at least your first round. So yeah, it's they only could be in the defense of the Innocence Project. They have so many people that they're trying to help,
Yes.
that because you have state appointed counsel for your first round of the appeal, basically, they say, let the state appointed counsel have a go at it, and after they have their shake at it, then we'll step in. But the tremendous cost of appeal and everything else that is kind of stacked against the actual defendant, it makes sense that the Innocence Project would say, all right, state appointed lawyer, public counsel, you do this, you organize, you get the transcripts, you organize the defense, we'll be able to review everything that you put together and then try and figure out where to go from there, because they have to do a lot of legwork, and then that's a huge cost that the Innocence Project doesn't have to pay for. So,
Right.
I mean, realistically, because yeah, it is something that is a not for profit organization. They're trying to do this because they believe in doing the right thing for these people that are wrongfully incarcerated and wrongfully accused, and they have to try and maximize their effort. And so I don't fault the Exoneration Project or the Innocence Project at all for those rules. It's just a lot of people don't understand, because they're like, the Innocence Project, this is clearly wrongful, get them involved. We will.
it'll if you have to, because there's always that great possibility that
right,
you're able to get the appeal heard, because that's the first hurdle is getting the appeal heard. And once the appeal is heard, then if you win that, then Innocence Project doesn't have to come in. That's sort of the hope, is that you can get this overturned on appeal, and get this man out. I mean, so say he goes and does his appeal, gets everything done, and he's out, next week? What would be his next step on that? Where would he go from there?
Well, he wants to sue everyone. That's been the number one topic of conversation, and rightfully so.
Yes.
Now, I forget the proper legal term, but what he needs to sue and be awarded for every one of the violations, every one of his constitutional violations, every one of the legal violations, everything that they did wrong to put him where he's at and take his children away. Every single person that was a bad actor needs to see accountability, and that is important. And everyone who is complicit in that also needs to see that accountability and the sanctions placed on these individuals, on the government itself, for being complicit in this need to be so extreme that they stop it, that they change their behavior. It must be so influential that people notice and are afraid to do it again, because they should be. They should be terrified to break the law like they did in order to get a conviction. And so that would be the goal. I mean, like the modern crusader, right? The helm and the thing with the cross. You know what I'm talking about? Like it's really like it's like a life mission for him. And you have no idea how long those lawsuits are going to be dragged out. It could be 10 years of litigation. But the reality is that he has a very strong case to sue the pants off of everyone. And mind you, that Michael Gravely operated outside of the office of the prosecutor. He does not have immunity in this case.
Right.
He operated as an investigator and showed up in the civil action and presented himself as a legal party when he did not have a right to do that in the habeas corpus. He is suable. He does not have immunity. And that is important, because I want Gravely to hear and see that his ass is grass. We're coming for him because he knows what he did. He knew that he broke the law, and we're going to make sure that he pays.
Yes. And there was so many things that were, I couldn't believe that Schrader left a lot of that stuff in there. And I mean, it's like bad actors, bad state actors taking advantage of a, and I don't have any, I don't know these people personally. I could care less about the prosecutor's office or the state as a whole. I don't know them personally, but whenever you see something screwed up coming along, it's like, I'm just sitting there going, Schrader, shut up. We don't care about your opining. Rule on it. Give a brief summary of it. And, but it's like he's off in his own fucking world, just rambling about anything. They're relying on a bad witness to no crime. I mean, so one of the things that I noticed from watching that tape with Sadie was just, all of a sudden she's accusing him of something with no body. Well, why wouldn't she be concerned that maybe he did something to somebody else and had run off? It was on the run. I mean, it made not a whole lot of sense to me. A million different thoughts would be going through my head, and I wouldn't know how to articulate any single one of those. If I was
for the record,
that kind of stuff.
Like you just said, at that point during that interview, they didn't even know that blood was Rosalio's. They had no idea. That could have been Rosalio killing somebody else in his apartment and running. At that point, they had no idea. No idea. And this was the narrative that they ran with, was what Sadie told them in this interview. That, I would just, for those of you out there that like have started to look at this whole story from hindsight through the lens that we've been telling, just like put yourself in that headspace when watching this interview. The cops didn't even know that it was Rosalio's blood. It could have been anyone. And they're like, she seems totally credible. She should leave. Go ahead. Go get your daughter.
Yeah.
And let her leave the crime scene. it should blow your mind how
It,
incompetent these police
it
are.
did. That was the worst part about it. And I think Wendy H meant to say something else. I want to pop this up here in a second. Bring this up. So Wendy H, what I think she means to say is, please donate to Zach's legal fund, is what she meant to say. So there is a legal fund there, and you can get that information off of the free ZachariahAnderson.org that's up there at the top of, that's been pinned up there. But most definitely, if you can, any little bit is going to help. I've seen, that I think you broke the 50 at some point, 56, and just trying to get the word out there, because these things take so much funding to do. It's not cheap and easy to do an appeal. Trust me. I've seen
The
my wife
average
have
cost
to do.
is like 150 to 250.
Yes.
It could go up even from there. Like really, the sky is the limit on what you could spend on an appeal. And we were quoted from the defense attorneys that they said, well, for 250, we'll represent you for the appeal. Wow, they already knew the case, so why would they need 250 to represent them for the appeal? So, like all of that was just greasy. It was really upsetting.
Oh, I hate to see that, especially if they've been doing quite a bit to start out with. Maybe they're just thinking that they have to hire some outside counsel or something. I don't know. I mean, it's so messed up. Yeah. I feel the 50 was just to retain Natalie. I think that's what you heard, Eric.
So the 50 was Natalie's retainer, the transcripts, which were 10,000, and then the start of the slush fund to then hire experts and investigators. So Natalie actually, because she believes in the case, dropped her retainer down to her law firm's minimum, because she thinks that it could be the linchpin in trying to start to clean up the Kenosha criminal justice system. Some accountability for doing their job so poorly. That
yes.
When she is in court, that they know that she's watching, and that's important.
And it makes it a little difficult to come after these folks, because they have the airwaves, they have the newspaper, they have all of the power of the state behind them on every single step that they make, from city council members to everything. And it's finding the ones that really don't like them too much. That's the ones that you're looking to get their support behind, the ones that have no love for them. And that's the.
But the problem is, what skin do they have in the game? Why are they against them? And so, I understand the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that, but that doesn't make them your bed buddy. Yeah.
Right. But if you're trying to get that case out there and get it shown, getting the notoriety. I mean, it's already got some notoriety, but getting it where they are now in fear because crap. When
more cases have dropped since, like people are talking about the Crystal Kaiser case, that abortion of a case, where they dropped the ball in the investigation of Volar, the guy that was the sex offender, a year before she killed him. And I don't know that it was specifically in self-defense. I don't know the case that well, but there's just a lot that goes around, or that has been around this whole investigative body, this criminal justice body, that is just not, it's not right. Whatever they're doing it poorly to start, and they're doing it with some suspicious undertones. And again, I mean, the more we dig into stuff that is going on in Kenosha, just the worse it is. And there's a lot of public record out there. I'm not going to cite it all for everybody. you're able to dig through quite a bit of it on the public record. It'll take a lot of time, and a lot of people are doing it for us. But I don't want to articulate too much of it too soon, if that makes sense.
I completely understand that. Too bad Gravely wasn't. Yes, I said that. Yes. Well, and here's the thing. As shady as Gravely is, he's still a human being, and my concern with a lot of people going, as much as despicable and horrible as you think that he is, it does not do any good to for example, write a death threat or any of this other crap. Don't do that crap. That's gonna lead to nothing but problems, because now they're on the defensive, and then they become it, nothing like having a bear that's cornered. It's it's got to get out of that corner. And if people are doing crap like that, I would always suggest don't, just stop, because you're harming a case more than you're helping. As much as frustration as you have, stay out of that realm, because one, you're going to get your ass in trouble. Number two, it doesn't help Zach whatsoever.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why we like in our Facebook group, we've asked everyone not to reach out to any of the witnesses that took the stand. Nobody needs to be contacted, not a single person. Like, I don't want people messaging Sadie. I don't want people reaching out to her personally. Not at all. She doesn't need that. It's not going to serve a purpose. I don't care. Thank you for your support. Thank you for believing in what we're doing. But everyone, every single person in this deserves that base level of human respect, which is more than I've received a number of nasty messages, nasty grams from people, because I'm trying to fight for, my brother's release, and because he's innocent of a crime, which is insane, because also I've only ever argued justice for Rosalio is just not through Zach. Not that
Right.
we don't want justice for him, and that distinction is lost on many people. And just because I believe that Zach is innocent of this crime doesn't mean that I don't believe that there is someone out there that likely committed this crime and that they should be in prison for it. So, like,
But you
one
don't
does
know
not mean the other.
who that
We
is.
just
Yeah.
yeah, it's just that the cops didn't do their job to figure out who it was.
And if the
So
cops would have done their job, they would have figured out who. Well, maybe they wouldn't have figured it out, but they probably would have come a lot closer to hitting the mark than going
right,
after just somebody
yeah,
that somebody else knew, kind of thing. It's
there's reason to believe that Rosalio had friends connected to some organized crime, with his message to Sadie about reaching out to some old contacts. There's reason to suspect that he was involved in some sort of drug exchange or drugs in some way, shape, or form. And there's reason that any one of the 6 or 7 women that he was attempting to sleep with could have had anyone that would have taken that in a very bad way, and done something to him because of it. All of those are real possibilities. Sadie being one of those women, and I've never said that the police didn't need to investigate Zach. For what she said, I don't blame them for looking into him. Okay, that's fine. Look into him, but do your diligence, do your job well.
look at all of the people that could
Right.
be suspected of this, and if for nothing else, to eliminate them as a potential suspect. I mean, they didn't look deeply into Sadie. They didn't look deeply into a lot of her friends, a lot of his friends, the guy that
Yep.
was supposed to be there the night before. They didn't look into any of these people or any of the other women that he was involved. They looked at nobody else. They had their man before
Right.
within
Or
24 hours.
the woman that was at the crime scene during the alleged time of the disappearance and the attack. They didn't bother even downloading her phone. They didn't even bother doing that. Nothing. It's just, it is, it's an embarrassment, is what it
Yes.
is. It really is, and they should be tucking their tails in shame.
Yes.
Uh, and all they've done is try and spin misinformation, around this, and try and save face and release misinformation even leading up to the trial intentionally, which I think should be illegal. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that police agencies and the DA are leaking information to the press, like claiming that there was blood in Zach's van. They didn't have blood in Zach's van. They never had any tests that indicated blood in Zach's van. They claimed that there was an open can of sardines in his can. That was in the press. That was also not true, just blatantly not true. So people then were like connecting the smell of sardines or the fishy smell to then covering up a suspicious odor in the van, because they claimed that there was open sardines underneath his chair. And who would do that? Who would just open sardines and leave it in their van? Like this kind of crap that they tried to sell to the public to taint their perception of the case, to then effectively create cognitive dissonance, where they had bought in so hard to the idea that he was the suspect and they were justified in arresting him, that they wouldn't even look at anybody else as a potential suspect. It's gross.
Solomon, can you prove? I just saw something that said, Solomon, can you prove your back is? Oh, hey, Gosney Raid, welcome. He said, Solomon, can you prove your background isn't a green screen? We know it's not a green screen. He got up earlier and he was picking things up off the shelf. So we know it's not a green screen.
Well, I don't know what you want me to do to prove. You want me to like reach back and grab a pillow off the couch and raise it up for you?
Don't get up and walk, because what the ladies are wanting is they want to look at your butt. And
no, they don't. No, it's not that impressive.
They don't care. They're just like, oh yeah, get up and show your butt. That's all they want to see. They just go.
What is this?
Go pick something up off the shelf. Yeah, that's what they're doing. You gotta be careful. We got some hungry ladies out there. Hey, Fedorowski, how's it going? Steve Gosney Raid. Well, shoot, if Steve, I think I have his Twitter stuff. I would invite him on here to come and talk with you, because he handles these kinds of appeals.
Steve's wonderful, honestly.
Yeah.
I've only ever had a positive interaction with Steve. Now, I've also heard that he is a lion in the courtroom, that he is a hell of an attorney.
He's a beast.
But like legitimately in every interaction, not only is he genuine, but he is intelligent and knowledgeable. I respect Stephen Gosney with every ounce of my being. That guy is a dynamo.
And he impressed me the first time that I actually have interacted with him, just with his knowledge and his ability to like empathize with people, but not be, run over by them.
Right.
And, he's like, no, I understand where you're coming from. And, here's why I am with it. I'm like, wow, just the mind is amazing on that guy. Yeah, he's I'll send him a quick little link on Twitter if he's interested. He has it blocked up, so I can't. So, oh well. If I send him an email, I might be able to get it to him, but it's good. His butt was better when he was doing construction. There you go. See, Jen like the man.
When I was climbing ladders all the time, especially roofing, you've got, like 70 pounds of shingles on your shoulder and you're walking up a ladder 2 stories. It's a good butt workout. So thank you, dear. I appreciate that.
Hey, well, Steve, you're more than welcome to come on. You hit me up on Twitter and I'll send you a link if you're wanting to come on and chat for a little bit. We won't take up all of Solomon's evening at all. So if you're wanting to come on, just hit me up or talk to Danielle. She'll get you a link. She'll hit me up in Discord or something like that.
Oh, of course. I mean, I might be able to send Steve a link. I'm not sure, but
yeah, you can send one. That's absolutely fine if he wants to join in. Yeah, like I said, most of my concern has been with you and your family and how you guys are getting along. Is it what's keeping you grounded? What's keeping you, you know, where you're able to separate away from all of this? Because I mean, it's, it is a lot, and it is a lot on your shoulders that those shingles are probably feeling pretty light compared to what you're dealing with right now.
Totally different type of load. Yeah, I mean, sanity is it's really like only kept by being able to go to bed at a semi reasonable hour. That's that's been the thing that's been keeping us grounded, is that like we try to go to bed and get enough sleep and spend a little bit of time together. Yeah, I have been neglecting my bathroom renovation. Somebody had asked earlier that if they had heard that I was going to start streaming. The bathroom renovation is really the crux to getting that taken care of, and I have neglected it without a doubt.
So what are you doing in the bathroom? What renovation are you working on? Like the entire full gut or what?
The whole thing, yeah, the whole thing.
Nice.
So, I actually, so I dropped the floor. We've got a split level, so the concrete
Oof.
floor. I cut the concrete floor out and I dropped the floor of the shower down a step.
Nice.
So instead of having a curb to step over to enter the shower, you're actually going to step into the
In.
shower
Nice.
and some stuff. So I'm doing it the hard way, right? Like this is not something that most people do. But for me, because like I built this, right? Like
Yes.
I designed those shelves and built them. That television is actually, it has a tube buried in the wall to pull wires through,
Mm-hmm.
down onto the top of there's the wood box behind me.
Yep.
So the wood box is over here, right here. That's the wood box. So I've got like an outlet that comes out the wall there for pulling all the wires down and stuff. So I did neat things, and with Jen, like, because we designed it together. Like the back sides of all the bookshelves, they're wallpapered. Well, I wallpapered all those, and I installed it, and I spaced all of the pattern out and made sure that it was always like on point. So there's like attention to little details, and it all kind of comes together to this. I installed the wainscoting, and I retrimmed all the windows, and I installed a new floor, and I did stuff like that. So, once you have the skills, then
It
the
just,
problem
yeah.
is that when you're good at it, your wife wants you to do it all the time.
I know. I know. Trust me. I finished out our sun porch. It was, I guess, where you're at, they would call it a 4-season.
Yep.
And so we actually had somebody come out and do the frame out on it because we were getting windows. And I was like, I don't know how to do windows. I'm sure if I took enough time, I'd figure it out. We had somebody else come out. They just framed it and did a house wrap. I did all of the interior. It was just a cement pad. Now it has tile on it. And I mean, all of the walls, did a tray ceiling, but it's still a cathedral ceiling in this little room. Built the swing that's in there for it. It's a swing bed, so it's a twin mattress size, so two people can easily snuggle up on it if they want to. Did all of the shiplap across the ceiling, ceiling fan. Put in what is it, like a little lounge seat. Built a coffee table for once your wife sees that you can build like a table for outdoors, she goes, hey, can you build me a swing? And hey, how about this? And
Yeah.
I can just buy this. I was like, I can build it cheaper than you can buy it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you haven't even seen our garden. I outdid myself. That's a project that's still underway technically. I built like a pergola entry with, planted grapevines and raised beds, and like raised beds throughout the garden. Like it's like 15 feet by like 30, 35 feet. So, like it's a bit of an ordeal. It's very pretty, but it's also a lot of work to garden. So
It is. And it doesn't
Um,
lend room for any sort of vacation time. I know, because we went to Italy last year, and she was just like, "Oh, I want to do all this planned." I was like, "Why?" I was like, "We're going to be gone all summer. Like, you're going to miss everything that you plan." And she was like, "Well, maybe my aunt will enjoy it," because she stayed and watched our dogs. And I
oh,
was like,
sure.
"Okay, plan away." And so she planned it, and we got back. She was, "I don't know why I planned all this, because I haven't been able to enjoy any of it."
Yeah. It's been kind of
uh,
the story of our lives since I got the garden actually sowable is that's the headache is like, you know, well,
yeah.
when are we home to really realize it? So
Well, the cool spice. I actually showed her a video of my backyard. She was like, "I had no idea." Like, from beginning to where it is as of last year. So, like, I've got a shed that I built a deck on it for my wife, and it has pull out drawers, so you can pull the drawers out, and she can put bags of soil in it and push those back in, and raised garden beds. I've got a pergola over the fire pit, and the sun porch, which I did all the inside and outside stuff.
sure.
And she's just like, she's amazed by it. Like, holy cow. I mean, we've got stonework from top to bottom of the place, and it's a lot of work. And I tell anybody, if you're going to do this stuff, most of the time, once you start doing it, you start figuring out, oh, that didn't work. I mean, it's still cheaper than hiring somebody else to do it sometimes.
All the time. Labor's expensive, very expensive, and has only gotten
Yes.
more expensive. So yes, it's its own headache. But either way, I've got no shortage of projects here at the house, and I think that's just what you get for being, what the classical man's man, right? The guy that is the fixer.
Yes.
If you're handy, then you get obligated to do all of the handy things.
So, Melissa Siamak wants to know: has anyone experienced getting a cash advance fee from putting money on Zach's books? The site says that may happen.
I haven't. I also haven't loaded his books because he had a bunch of money still on it, and then I would have to talk to my other brother. My other brother was the one that put most of the money on his books.
So, how many brothers and sisters do you have? Because I never, I know more about Zach than I know about you.
So there's 9 total.
Cow.
So yeah, I'm the fourth.
So, sort of the
So
middle child.
so yeah, almost the middle child. So my eldest brother is Josh, then Zach, then my brother Aaron, who passed away before I was born, then me, then my sister Shah or Havala, uh,
I like that
then
name.
then I have a sister Zenith, who maybe you've seen around.
Yes,
Uh,
I've
then
seen
I
her around.
and then a brother Matthew, a
Okay.
sister Samantha, and then a sister Fiona. So
Wow.
like there's a
So
lot of
are these
kids.
all from the same mother and father, or different mothers and fathers?
A
Like your
blend.
half siblings?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a bunch of halves. So I'm the last of the original 2 parents.
Okay.
So I was the last one of that subsection of children, and then after me, mom had, I don't know, she hoarded around and had a bunch of kids. She's very Catholic, but she would get married, had one out of wedlock, and then got married and got divorced, got married, got divorced.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so whatever, she's a born again now or something. But
Yeah.
so she like kept making children. My dad ended up getting married, and then had 2 children with his third wife. So
Gotcha. Yeah, it's sort of the same with my family. My mother had my older brother and my older sister by 2 different men, and then she married my father. Well, before she married my father, she had one that she gave up for adoption. That him and I actually reconnected. Was it about 10 years ago? My older sister reached out of the blue because she shared the same last name as what his birth last name would have been. Um, so they shared the same last name. Whenever he searched her out, he reached out to her and she said, "Is it okay if he contacts you? I mean, I know that you've been like wondering who this guy is." And I was like, absolutely. So we connected, we hit it off really well. He's actually in Florida. And I was like, well, damn, cool guy. And we've hung out, talked, we call each other on a regular basis. But
Sure.
then I've got by that same father, have a younger brother, younger sister, and then my father, after my mother and father divorced, he had two more, which are ironically the same age as my older sister's two kids, like within like months of one another.
Wow.
Like maybe like a month or a half a month. So yeah, my old man was pretty active well into his 70s.
Well, good for him.
Hey,
I mean, no regrets, right?
I guess not.
And the only problem is, having a child late in life, you don't get to see him grow, like that's like that
Well,
late, you
well,
know.
he did. He got to see them. They're both in their what 30s now. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so it's good. I mean, they're I lost contact with all of my parents. Just my mother's batshit crazy, and my father he pretty much was off doing his own thing, and I was like, oh, well, there you go. He's happy. I'm happy. Let's go find a life and make a life with
Yeah.
people that really give a shit, and that's sort of what it boils down to.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm assuming that you were pretty close with Zach, and you're saying he's older than you.
Yeah, by 4 years or 3 and 3/4 years. Yeah.
He looks so damn young. I'm not saying that you look old. I'm just saying that he looks
You're
much
saying that
younger
I
than
look
you.
old. I get it. My whole family teases me. So my eldest brother, he doesn't even have a gray hair. He's 5 years older than me. He's 13 months older than Zach. Right? No
Damn.
gray hair, not a single. He's blonde. He barely grows a mustache. We tease him for how little bit of a beard he can grow. It's hilarious actually. Where I started turning gray, I found my first gray hair at 17, and my first like gray nose hair at like 25. Right, like I started turning silver early, and so I started losing it up here by the time I was in my late 20s. And I, like just I got to the point by the time I was like, 35, that I was like, screw it, just took it all off. Um,
And I was really surprised, and I think what threw me off is because he didn't speak during the whole trial until almost the very end, whenever
right.
he spoke up for himself. I mean, that was ironic, but I was like, I had no idea, because I'm looking into him and I'm thinking, was this guy like 25, 26 years old? And then whenever I watched the interview that he did after Sadie's interview with the police, and where he's sitting there and talking, I was like, wow, this is a level that I wasn't expecting. This is not, you know, this doesn't scream to me guilty in any sort of way. It screams of oh great. I've been through this shit a million times with her, and I'm dealing with crazy, and I know because I've dealt with crazy. I had a parent that's crazy. I've dated crazy girls. I understand crazy. And I could feel everything that he was saying. I could understand every bit of it, and I was like, okay, this is even throwing up more red flags. And that the police, that the investigators, the people that are supposed to be investigating this, are not seeing through whatever it is that Sadie is showing in her test, her witness impact statement, where she's so impacted by this. It just didn't match up. Like, I could understand everything that he's saying, and watching her, I was like, it's almost like she had this narrative that she just wanted to tell. And
Yep.
with Zach, it was just sort of like, well, ask me the questions, whatever you want to ask. I'm an open book. Did you do this, and this? Yes. Did you do this, and this? Yes. Let me explain. And I sort of went to the end of it. I haven't watched the whole thing through yet. I'm going to do that with Mo. But at the very end of it, where they're arresting him and hauling him off, he's just for stalking. Oh, what in the hell is going on? This
Right.
makes no sense.
Yeah, he
You
thought
know?
it was catch and release. Like he thought
Yeah,
that they're just going to book him and then set him free for for stalking for something he didn't do. Like, hear me out. None of it's true. She's lying about this and this and this. That's not what happened. I don't know what you're talking about. That's not what happened here. Like, yeah, okay, I went over there, but it was never with that intent. Like all of that, and frankly, it checks out with the evidence. So
right.
fine, they pursued their investigation of it, but it also checks out with the evidence, which still, it blows me away that they didn't decide to actually investigate Sadie, especially when she and uh, Zach, Zach had a nickname for Becky because they didn't get along. That Jen had made a comment before that.
Oh, I'm sorry. The chat is just on fire tonight.
Yeah,
I can't keep
they're
up
loving
with
it.
all of them. I was just like, I'm gonna let chat take care of themselves. They're doing
Yeah.
just fine.
Yeah, she said, "Are we going to get a shady Barky combo?" Zach called Rebecca because they did not get along at all.
Oh.
Called her Barky because she was like a chihuahua, like always like coming at him and saying things. And
I was curious about that because she seemed just, and she was in the trial and testified, right?
yes, yeah, that was
Okay.
Rebecca Jekyll. She
Okay.
did testify.
I did not see any of her testimony, and I watched the trial and I watched quite a bit of it, but work takes up priority over everything, and and that was one of them that I missed. It was seeing that what something that Sadie said sort of set me off where Becky was there watching the kids. Zach shows up, he's standing over her, and I'm almost picturing how this scene is playing out, and I'm like, I can imagine that he shows up over there and he's like, what in the hell is going on? And here's Becky just laying on the couch, just sort of half drunk or whatever. And he's like, why is this person with my kids? And where in the hell is my, ex that's supposed to be, taking care of these kids? What in the hell is
Right.
going on? This makes not a whole lot of sense to me. And the way that Sadie presented that was, he was just standing over the top of her, like staring at her intently and, intimidatingly. It's like,
But even to her testimony, she said that he walked in and said hi. So like he walked
so
in
it
and
wasn't
said,
even that.
"Hi, Becky," and like wasn't he wasn't a jerk to her. He was very cordial, and she
Yeah.
flipped out because he was there at 4 a.m. or whatever, because he was showing up early enough to start his laundry, and then he had to get his laundry out of the washing machine because he was going to work that day for his first day of his new job, and so he got there early enough to start his laundry and to start the kids' day out right by like making them breakfast. And they tried to make him showing up at a place where he was allowed to do his laundry
Right.
historically, to do his laundry and take care of his children sound threatening. It doesn't even make sense. It's so insane that anybody even bought it as any story of some sort of like threat or invasion or whatever it was, because that wasn't even the status of their relationship. I mean, and Sadie was in Mexico. Why wouldn't she want the father to her children who had complete visitation rights to his children? It's not like there was an order that precluded him
Right.
from spending time with his children, to spend time with his kids. And what's the problem with making your children breakfast before they go get on the bus? Because in rural areas, in out in
Oh, I
the
know.
country, sometimes the bus shows up at 6 a.m. Sometimes you have to get everybody ready. It takes hours to get all of the kids ready to get them out the door sometimes, especially when you have
Oh, I know.
rowdy twins that are going to make a show of it. So showing up early enough to do that is not an unconscionable act.
Yeah.
It actually makes perfect sense. And it actually demonstrates him being a good dad to his kids. It even in Sadie's police interview, she said that he was good to the kids.
Right.
It is from her own mouth. So why then is this one act, this single act that he does for his children, then nefarious? Like, there's so much about this that just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. They tried to lie and build this misinformation chain, and it's ridiculous and gross, honestly.
Well, and there's someone that I know of, and I won't call them out by name, but they have a good relationship with their ex, for their child that they had together. They have a good relationship.
Yeah.
They're able to communicate well with one another. They just know that they're bad together as as a couple. So they can have this conversation. They can be cordial to one another, and it doesn't. People don't understand this dynamic because they want this Hollywood ideal of, as soon as dad walks out of the house, mom is, jumping the bones of every other guy, and they're constantly fighting. It's just a big argument. It's not like that in most relationships like that. They both sort of moved on. They're doing their own thing.
Moreover,
instigator.
the police had evidence of Sadie dating other people in her text messages.
Yes.
And Gravely knew it because he could see it in the evidence, and they still presented it that Rosalia was the first relationship that she had. So they intentionally misled the jury. They had it.
Yes.
It was clear. And I said it before. I said, she's dating other people. What are they talking about?
Yeah.
There was no doubt. I had called it out well before that. Like Christine said that she and Zach were dating for like a year, but a year before that, at least there was another guy around Sadie that I said, "Hey Zach, is she?" And he said, "Yeah, probably."
He didn't care. He was like, "I'm over her," kind of thing.
And so for the public's perspective, they had an understanding already. It wasn't like that. It wasn't this jealous control. I'm sure that Sadie desperately wanted him to have that feeling of desperate jealousy for her.
That's what I was getting out of that too. Oh my gosh. Because
he didn't.
And this is what Mo and I were talking about. He was just like, how could he be like still interested in her? I don't get this. If she's this way, I don't see it. And I was like, I think that she wanted to have a relationship, and he was just like, yeah, I don't, I'm over you kind of attitude about it. Like, the only reason I deal with you is because of the kids. Other than that, I really don't even want to be around you.
Well, I mean, he even, like, the recording that they played, like, he demonstrates emotional maturity in telling her, like, look, of course I feel jealousy. Of course I'm jealous of the situation. But we're supposed to be dating other people.
Right.
Like, that is an emotionally intelligent conversation with someone that you're trying to co-parent with, trying to establish boundaries with them in a kind way, acknowledging that emotionally together they burn like the sun, but they can't do it because they also explode like a nuclear bomb. So with that, like, yeah, we're great. We have that fire, but I can't do this anymore.
Right.
And that's the gist of the conversation. And it was just completely misrepresented.
I know. And every part of this just. So what are your next steps besides the appeal? What have you been working on that if people are looking to help you guys out, that they can help you out with?
Well, I mean, Steve Gosney, who I think just went to bed, but shout out to Steve again, hooked us up with Tiffany Roy. Tiffany Roy, is someone that that council's reached out to in regard to her complaint to the DOJ here in Wisconsin about the impropriety of the DNA evidence presentation and exactly what was said. because I mean, we even looked up the statute. It was against the law. Like what was inferred was not factual, and that she didn't even say most of it. To be honest, she agreed to things that were not legal or scientific terms, or they weren't scientific terms, and ended up misrepresenting evidence while on the stand because Gravely was testifying for her, which should have been up to the judge to step on when there were objections to it, but the judge kept letting it slide. So this whole thing, all these experts, we have people like you, more streams, more exposure, more conversations about it, like you and Mo streaming the interviews again, breaking it down. Jeff was going to break it down on legal vices too, but I'm not sure what was going on with him. I haven't talked to him since last week. But he was planning on doing it sometime this week originally. But Nicholas doing regular fundraising streams, because we're not done raising legal funds. We have potentially tens of thousands of dollars to spend on investigators that is going to be coming at us next. And on top of it, if the first round of appeal fails, we have to go to the next round of appeal, which is going to be another large cash deposit. So what we're looking at is, the path forward, where that money's got to come from. How do we get it in the right spot? So yes, we're still raising money on the Give Send Go website. We're still pushing for that. We're here doing that. Jen wrote an update on Give Send Go and posted it. Wrongful Pod is I believe that they're going to be working on a couple more episodes, covering some of the issues with Zach's interview and relating that to the case. So Wrongful Pod is taking some well-deserved time with their family after producing that podcast in the time that they did, deep diving the trial itself. But there's more to the case than just the trial, and I think that's been made evident with the interviews that I've done and the release of the discovery on our website. And it's like the more that gets released, the more people are just flabbergasted. So yeah, Wrongful Pod, go check out that. David at MLS is producing a documentary as well. So that's another big deal. He's actually gathering experts in multiple fields and interviewing them, asking the questions, showing them testimony, having them give professional critique, showing them pieces of evidence, and having them critique that as well, and is going to be presenting it after Law and Crime, or A&E, did their series, their mockumentary.
Yeah.
On killer cases, and then Behind the Crime. Behind the Crime was better than Killer Cases, but still, their mockumentaries, where they just doubled down on the prosecutor's narrative, which was full of holes and lies. It was something that bothered David so much that he was going to post satire. He was going to heckle it.
Yes.
But then quickly realized how really offended he was by it, and then started to seriously approach the idea of the documentary. So, David is putting in a lot of time in just doing that, in organizing all of those puzzle pieces. And I'm not sure when that's going to be released, but it should be this year. The trial is going to be restreamed on the 1 year anniversary, I believe, on MLS or MLS adjacent, for the 1 year anniversary, going to touch base again. And just, after all that we've talked about, after all that we've dug through, after all the things that we've learned about DNA evidence and testimony, after the issues that have been brought up with what people are saying, watching it again, for those of us that haven't watched the trial again, we have an opportunity to reach another wider audience, but also to watch it with a different set of eyes, to see, the look that Rebecca gives Sadie from the stand. to see those moments, because it's on camera
Yes.
where she goes, like, got him, gives her the look from the stand. And in those moments, there's a reason why we're critical of individual bad actors, right? And things
Yes.
that we've said, and the information that we've produced. It's not because we're just making it up. It's because the evidence is there to also back up where we're coming from. And there's a reason why these suspicious actors are people to watch and to look at. Michael Campbell too,
Yes.
his testimony is all over the place.
Yes.
Like, these people have got really, really oily, greasy presentations when they're on the stand. And and then just wonder where the jury was convinced. Like, that's the other part. For those of us that are convinced, where did the jury, what moment did the jury get stuck on? Was it my niece? Was it Sadie? Was it the jailhouse snitch? Which one? Was it a combination of them?
It also may be that the jury didn't see what was going on behind the scenes where everybody else did. If you were to watch this trial from the perspective of the juror, of seeing, not knowing all of the little things that are going on behind the scenes, not catching those little eye rolls, the little head movements, not catching Gravelly talking and speaking out everything that this person's supposed to be saying word for word. If you're not picking up on those things as a juror, I could see where a jury might come up with the idea of, this person did this. I mean, if you're not keen to the way the law works, you're just a layman. You're seeing some guy that's, looks like, just your average dude that doesn't respond and is not fighting for himself. And they're going, well, clearly he did it. I mean, he's not fighting for himself. He's not backing up what he says. I don't think it would have done any good if he would have got on the stand.
Right, because they
Because
were already setting the foundation that he wasn't believable. I mean, the judge
right.
even said it at the end. Remember, he said, "Thank you for not tainting this courtroom with your lies." Like, I'm inferring, and that's
Yeah.
not a quote, but he basically, he just told him. He said, "Thank you for not lying to the courtroom and not taking the stand." Like, the judge
Yeah.
said that in the courtroom, which indicates that in his bias, in the judge's own prejudice, that he believed that whatever my brother was going to say when he took the stand, he was full of shit.
Yeah.
That there was going to be nothing of substance that was going to come out of him because he was clearly just a liar. And that was the judge's perspective. Now, how the hell was he ever going to get a fair trial if that was the judge's mindset?
Right.
40 years on the bench, when did you stop looking at the defendant as a person who's innocent until proven guilty? When did the judge start getting the law wrong? Because that is an important question to ask. Because
Right.
that statement is indicative that the judge did not clearly comprehend, understand, or hold true the idea of innocence until proven guilty.
Yes. And that's, I think, some of the bigger concerns with all of it is, the judge is the final arbiter of the law and how that law is supposed to be applied. And, your jury is there to find facts. And if you're getting lies from multiple people, how are they to determine that they're facts and things that are not facts that are law based? And the judges, no, I'll let that in. That's fine. I'll sustain that. No, Gravelly did nothing wrong. Why is he? Yeah, there should be no reason why he can't sit here at the defense table.
Yeah.
It's just like all of the shady stuff where he should have been removed off that case immediately
For the
all
record,
of his.
both Gravely and Kruzeric, both
Yeah.
the ADA and Gravely met with Narita.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them
Yeah.
acted as investigators. Both of them made themselves witnesses.
Yep.
Both of them should have been thrown off the case.
Yep.
That would have been fair because
Mm.
they are both witnesses technically. So that that level of impropriety, that the just some of the other issues with it beyond that, the misconduct by prosecutors. You're right. The jury didn't see it, but the jury is also supposed to be weighing the veracity of the facts, and
Right.
the the fact is that they never proved that Zach committed the crime, regardless of the DNA. And the lack of passion in the closing argument by the defense, I think, was really the straw on the camel's back, in my opinion. That the whole case was an emotional argument, and he made a logical, pragmatic approach to what was an emotional plea to the jury to convict a man. It was in my opinion, the wrong approach, and I don't think that it resonated. Because the verbiage was also like, well, they didn't prove it, so you can't convict him, and it's almost like a challenge, like, so the jury is like, want to bet, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just, I felt like it was a weak argument from that standpoint. The other pieces that were allowed in, the prejudicial evidence allowed in by the judge, the letter from the grave allowed in by the judge, the hearsay allowed in by the judge,
A
right?
lot of
All,
hearsay.
all of that stuff, all of that stacks in to a case that prejudices against the defendant
Right.
intentionally. And he tried to make the argument, well, no, it doesn't. You could look at it from this direction. But it was clear that it was. And he listened to Gravely make circular arguments to omit evidence, and then ruled on his behalf to try and omit future arguments that would be prejudicial. But when it was brought up in the other direction, he denied the defense the same type of motion repeatedly.
Well, and I'm curious, is Natalie having a little bit of difficulty because of things not being preserved for appeal?
There's some of that. I think that there are a number of key situations that were not preserved for appeal that should have been. I'm not a lawyer, so that
I was just curious if
take my word as dust, but there's a counter argument. I'm not going to get into exactly what she's
right. I was just
pursuing as an argument for the appeal, but there's the reality is that there were a number of situations where the ball was dropped, and on Zach's defense team that would have been highly influential, I believe, for the jury, and that's important. It didn't help that the judge also dismissed most of the defense's witnesses, on the grounds that the trial had gone on so long and that they were over the projected date for this trial, which the judge set based on some speculative idea. I don't know why he said 2 weeks, but then when it hit the 3-week mark, he was like, "We've got to wrap this up. I don't know why the defense is even producing a case. We don't have time for your case."
Well, it's because he spent a week opining on his opinions on the bench. I mean,
I agree.
He's just as bad as Judge Darrow, where it's like, shut up already and rule on it and give a reason or some sort of citation. If you want to opine about it, at the end of the day, go home and opine about it. But
we don't need 90 minutes of you giving a history of your experience in law school in order to make a decision or a ruling on what you think is the right thing to do in the court. It was over the line. It was too much.
Well, and then that also adds to that transcript that you've got to get, which increases your legal fees to do an appeal. It's like, was this intentional? Was it? I don't know. There was so many inconsistencies, and I know that you've got to be getting a little bit tired, and you want to get a little bit of rest.
I've been up since 4.
I know. So
now almost 9.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this thing out, and all of chat. Thank you very much for coming in here and listening to what Solomon has to say. Some of you have probably heard quite a bit of it before. Just know that everything that you can do to help out Zach in any way without being, butt heads towards, the people that brought this upon themselves, just be good to one another, and be good to be good to the Zachariah there, because he needs as much support as he can get, especially in this stuff. And Solomon, you and Jen need the support also, especially if you're carrying this load, by yourselves. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. So I just want everybody to know that. And with that, I'm gonna end this thing and just hang out for a little bit afterwards, and we'll talk just briefly. But everybody, till tomorrow morning. Yeah, I'll be doing a stream in the morning. So everybody have a good one. Yeah, definitely.